Hello and welcome to this Mother's Day special episode of the Shyft, your wellness center. My name is Lillian Kelani, your host. Thank you so much for joining us. The goal of the Shyft Wellness Center is to create a safe platform for people to freely talk about day-to-day issues and how they interact with our mental health without the fear of stigmatization and discrimination. And today I have a wonderful guest with me, Natasha Daniel, and she's here to talk about maintaining positive behaviors in negative situations. Natasha, you're very welcome.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome, and thanks for being here. So, before we go into the topic, let me tell our viewers a little bit about this wonderful woman. This woman, Natasha, is a woman of many talents, and it's going to be hard to sum her up, but I will do my best to give you a little of her profile. Natasha is a bilingual project manager in her day-to-day job, a certified career development practitioner, certified work-life balance coach, certified strengthening families coach, and a certified life coach with a strong passion for community and working with people. She loves bringing awareness and educating individuals in areas related to career development, mental health, and any aspect to enhance one's well-being. Natasha has great expertise in program implementation in the non-for-profit and corporate world from Montreal and in Edmonton. She has a passion for training and facilitating workshops. And this woman loves poems, she loves writing poems, she loves traveling, and just being in a space of very positive individuals.
Yes.
So I guess that's why you're in my space because I'm a very positive person.
Yes, you are indeed, and I'm happy to be here.
Oh, thank you for being here. So there's a few things I wanted to dig out of there. You actually enjoy facilitating workshops?
Yes, I do. I can sit in a classroom all day. It's different from teaching because with facilitating, you are learning from the participants and you are hearing from them also the expertise and experience. So then you combine all of that learning together and you get a wealth of resources and you dive into funny, different aspects of creativity and facilitation and stuff like that. So it's not as rigid as, you know, being a teacher in the classroom. You can use many different techniques to your facilitation style depending on your audience to keep them engaged. So I sometimes have the opportunity to do that for 2 weeks at a time sometimes.
Wow.
For a whole day.
So then with COVID, how have you pivoted? Because a lot of workshops normally you do them in person.
Yeah, and that's the difference. You pivot online, so
Yes.
so it's a different way of getting people engaged. So you as the facilitator have to come up with strategies to really get your audience into what you're doing. So I always use a lot of icebreakers to engage them, and then because most platforms are in Zoom and you can go into Zoom breakout rooms and they can have different discussions and still be creative. So sometimes I still have the participants do something creative through the computer, so you can still graphically show your skill set in that way depending on the activity. So getting them to be engaged, and I think storytelling is also important, especially the virtual, to get that connection.
Yes.
You want to share
Yes.
a lot of stories or share of your life experience, and that helps others to really say, you know what, I can share my experience and be comfortable on the platform. It's not as easy as in person.
That's what I was
just
going to
comes
say. You make
naturally,
it sound easy, but it is still challenging,
it's still
isn't it?
challenging. So you have to kind of get your technique and your niche to engage the people you're working with.
Right. Okay. So then, also you're bilingual. So what
Yes.
languages do you speak?
Well, I'm Anglophone, but I lived in Montreal for several years,
Yeah.
since I was about 19. So having living in Quebec, in Montreal, Quebec, it's a French province. So I think it was really important to learn French. I couldn't live in a city where people are speaking and not understanding what they're saying. So I learned French, and I still have the opportunity to work in French. And sometimes we have clients who French speaking, so it's more comfortable to get them engaged by even having them with some familiarity of words and stuff like that. And my husband speaks French. My son goes to a French school.
Wow.
So, and I have some coworkers who speak French, so I still have always have the opportunity to
So
practice
speak,
my French, even though I live in Alberta.
so do you speak it fluently or are
Yes.
you losing it a little
No,
bit
I
with
can speak
French?
her fluently. I still keep because at work very often one of my coworkers she's francophone and we speak French and and then when I have to interact with my son's school, the teachers or anyone within that arena, I speak French because it's a French school. So
Wow, that's nice. I would have just done this segment in French, but I will feel, I want our viewers to be able to engage, so we'll keep it English.
that's okay.
Okay, is that
Yeah.
okay with you? Because
That's
we could
okay.
just turn it
Okay
into a
that's
French
okay with me. English
session.
is,
English is
English is
fine.
good because
Okay.
sometimes it happens very often when I'm facilitating. I might forget a word in English, or sometimes I mix my English and French. We call it franglais. But we went franglais today. We'll just go with English so that we can capture the content the best way possible for our audience.
That's good. Thanks for allowing me to speak English. So, how have you been since the pandemic?
I've been pretty good since the pandemic. Actually, I've been engaged in a lot of workshops in the community to kind of to educate and bring awareness because a lot of people are struggling, especially within our Black community, and we know that with the pandemic, we had to adjust quickly
Yes.
to our new normal, and many people haven't gotten the handle of that new normal. So, with some non-for-profits, I'm still engaging, whether it's the families and family workshops or training sessions, or just within helping their staff also to you know change and adapt to how they integrate programs and still keep going as a business place, an organization. So I've also to find time to retreat. I've dig back into writing more poems since the pandemic started. So that's my time, my me time.
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll talk more about the importance of me time a little bit. So those are some of the things, and staying connected with my kids, and doing a lot of family activities, and at home my boys they like to play the memory game, and this is the thing when you're getting older, your memory's not the best as compared to
When
a
you're
9-year old. So we play this memory game with the cards all turned down, and we have to do the matching. But I always start off not getting any cards at all, and then I would get to a place where we get a few cards, and then afterwards they always win because that's the good thing with youths.
They're
Kids,
faster.
their brains,
It's just
they
so
can they
Well,
remember.
that's
their
because they
brains
don't
are so
have a
sharp.
lot of things to put in there. Trust me,
Well,
we have too much that
Well,
goes in there.
I don't. I mean, they have a lot of things to put in there, but but when we get older, it's just the whole dynamics of how the brain processes information and stuff like that. It
Right.
changes, and I can say, for a lot of people, even throughout the pandemic, and their brain function also changed because a lot of stress probably came when people got maybe more anxious around everything that's related to the pandemic.
Right.
I know I have some youth that I work with, and you would hear them say, "Oh, I haven't been out of my home for 8 months,"
Wow. Wow.
and that's just all about brain function and what's going on. Why we know that the pandemic is there, and we know COVID is out there, but to not to be out of your house for 8 months,
That's a
it's
lot.
a long stretch.
And I don't know how people do it, but I do know that you have a passion for working for kids and for young people. I didn't add that in, but I know that you volunteer in one of the mega churches here in Edmonton to be able to help young people and children. And you have a passion for mental health as well, because you were one of those the whole of 2020. You were like, are you not going to do anything for the shift? This is what's going on. Mental health is on the rise. People are losing their minds because of the whole lockdown and everything. And even bringing it back now this year, you've been pushing and saying you need to get back doing this. People need to hear things because a lot of people are suffering at home, and now we're in another third wave
Yes.
and another lockdown. Let's talk about, and this is Mother's Day weekend.
Yes, it is.
Like, how hard is that for mothers who were hoping this was going to be
Different.
a time different a little bit? They thought, especially in Alberta, they had a little bit of leeway to, maybe meet other mothers or do something, and now that's all been stripped back. How do you think people can cope with that during this time?
And that's one of the bigger challenges with the pandemic, and because it became a new normal so quickly, and because we are always busy as individuals, as mothers, like we'll talk about Mother's Day weekend, we are always undergo work, school, and bringing the kids to activities. And what happened? All of that got curtailed instantaneously when the pandemic started, and a lot of people didn't know what to do, because when you have certain lifestyle and you're always undergoing, there's always something that you have to do to fill up your time, and then all of a sudden there's no swimming lessons,
Yes.
there's no taekwondo, there's no
Where you
soccer
actually
field to
got a
go to.
break because they were
You
there
know,
doing that.
the shops the malls are limited because the food courts are closed. If you go out and thinking about as a mom having kids, you have to stay in a line to get into a store or something. That's a lot for people to take in. And I know you talked about me saying to you, like, what's going on with the ship. Because mental health, a lot of people are not even self-aware of what's happening with their mental being. And what level on the spectrum are they since the pandemic started in relationship to their mental well-being.
Right.
And we know that within our community especially, mental health is a stigma. I'm happy that more and more, even within our Canadian culture, we are getting more people to talk about it, but it's still fully not addressed in a way that people are comfortable.
Right.
And you think about the pandemic will probably could, it's traumatic for so many people, just because maybe they immigrated to Canada and they had their own trauma with dealing with maybe some sort of pandemic issue in a related country, and then we have this again. How do we cope? How do we stay positive? It can become challenging when you're not accustomed to integrating different things in your life that doesn't keep you busy. The moment we're not busy, that's when we have the time to take. The moment we're not busy, that's when the brain functions. There's a lot of time for thinking, and the brain brings us in that place where we can focus. And a lot of people over the months of the pandemic, they had challenges in focusing. What can I focus on? So to be positive, how do we stay positive throughout all of this negative? We didn't have Christmas. We didn't have Mother's Day last year.
Yeah.
My son, his second birthday, he had his second birthday a couple weeks ago. And, it was just us and a cake, and we did barbecue and stuff like that. And so a lot of kids are missing out on that. You as a parent not only have to deal with your mental well-being for you, but taking into consideration what happened to your child. A child hasn't graduated, they didn't have a full graduation.
Yeah. And another one is coming up again.
I think all of that, it can be so traumatic for a person, because as a young person is going through life milestones and finishing high school, and that's a big milestone.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that you can do. You're going to have that diploma, but to celebrate your success.
12 years.
12 years of success as a child, as a youth moves into another journey of their life. The pandemic
Took that all away,
took that away.
And then some people turned 18 during that time again. That's another big milestone.
So all of that, or even a child transitioning from high school, from elementary school going into junior and senior high, that's also, so those are milestones that, kids miss, or a youth missed out on the way we celebrate them and honor them.
Right.
So with that, how anxious are they about moving forward with life? What are the challenges what are they thinking in their mind? So as a parent, and as we know that mothers are the nurturing one, we are also taking on that burden.
On everything
else for our kids.
Okay.
And so how do we stay positive? How do we get them to stay positive and think of, out of the possibilities? My thing is, my personal slogan is, this too shall pass.
Yes.
So this
we
too
just
shall
have
pass.
to stay strong and stay
stronger.
During this time,
my sister
right?
sent me a couple pictures yesterday, and she said, we used to travel
Yeah, she was
And
here 2 years ago.
exactly.
Yeah.
And she's like, we used to travel. And I'm like, what's up with you? She's like, we used to. And I'm like, we would travel again because for me, this too shall pass. So one of my things is, is how do you start thinking positive about all that's going on? And with that comes a lot of self-awareness. And it comes mindfulness. So, and a lot of us, because we've always been so busy, we never took the time to practice mindfulness. But what mindfulness is just taking that time within yourself to sit and really connect with your inner you. And I know that's one positive way. So you're focusing not on anything that's around you or the things that you have to do, but you're focusing on you in the present. So being more mindful helped a lot of people, and it's helped a lot of people to bring out those creative juices and those different, innovative things that they haven't tapped into. So you will see that a lot of people started saying, oh, they started drawing again. Like myself, I sit and I'm writing more. So my husband is always asking, are you still working so late? I'm like, when I have my laptop, I'm not working.
Yeah.
I'm not always working. I'm in my own space, just getting, my thoughts are processing and my creative writing skills are coming in. So a lot of people with that, to maintain their well-being, they found things to do that they have a passion for.
Yeah, I've
And
written 10 songs since the
beautiful,
pandemic because yeah,
beautiful.
because like you said, is you just have that time to think, and there's so much going on.
Exactly.
And I think those are the positive things that people need to take out of this pandemic. Is
And
that
that's exactly
it's
what it is.
terrible. We're not saying people have died. It's horrible, but there are some positives that have come out. We've learned how to do things better. We've actually taken ourselves 10 years into the future, because the future is now. So all these things happening online and everyone going virtual and so much technology coming up, it was where we were going before. But we were going in yeah, and but we're going baby steps. But the pandemic forced us to just go there once and for all. And a lot of creativity in people, doing music, doing art, doing poems, concerts happening virtual,
Yeah, starting business,
businesses,
getting, and that's one of the things. So when you start to focus, and the pandemic allowed us to focus because we had nowhere to go.
Yeah, yeah.
There was no bars to go watch a soccer game at. A hockey game and all that. So we had to focus, and for people who were able to see the positive light all of the pandemic, that's what they do. They became more mindful. You became more self-aware of who you are. And what would you like to do to continue to enhance your well-being and enhance your life? And because we were also busy living the dream of, the working and all of that, a lot of people forgot the things that they wanted to accomplish as a goal.
Right.
And with that time for mindfulness and to tap into your own time, I call it my time. You sat and you tapped into your time, then you start to speak to yourself and recognize, I had this as a goal. How about I start working on it, working on this goal? And many people are achieving their goals right now.
Yes.
Because we found the time.
Yes.
So and these are some of the ways that we can stay positive and continue to stay positive. Really tap into ourselves, because sometimes we tend to ignore who we are. We tend to focus on, there's so many things to focus on, that we are not being self-aware.
Yeah.
And the more you are self-aware, and the more you recognize that, you know what, this is who I am and these are the things that I love. We can empathize with what's going on in the world, but what can I do for myself and for the others around me to really help us to become resilient?
Right.
Because when we stay positively, we can be resilient. And I have this thing that with part of mindfulness is it's called the ANTS, ANTS, the automatic negative thoughts. How do we stop those automatic negative thoughts?
So hold that thought right there. We're going to go into that. But you said something about resilience. And I worry, and you and I talk all the time, because every conversation we have is about what's going on, people's mental health. I see all the money that has gone into COVID and getting us out of COVID. But my biggest worry is that prior to COVID, we had a huge pandemic, a mental health pandemic, that mental illness pandemic that
Mm-hmm.
wasn't being addressed. Now, after the pandemic, this is going to go 10 times up. Do you think we're getting ready for what's coming in that aspect?
You
Are we
know,
prepared
I think the society,
as a society, as a
it's just
community?
focused on getting through the pandemic. How do we cope and soar
Mm-hmm.
through all of this? And I believe that people have to, even within our families and within our community, we have to start paying attention now to what's going on with the well-being of individuals. Because as soon as much as we crave the freedom, and when the pandemic is over, we are going to have that freedom, individuals are not going to be able to cope
No,
with
people have
that
become
freedom.
introverted. They don't even know what to do with themselves anymore.
And with that,
OCD, like there's just
exactly. And
anxiety.
so with that, we're at a part of the scale, but now the pandemic has shifted the scale. And when it's over, the scale can tip very easily. But we as a society, as a community, the government have to start putting many structures into place.
But they need to
Because
start
as
putting it now.
now,
They
because
can't
as
wait till
overwhelming
then.
as the hospitals are currently with the variant cases and all of that, that same overwhelming aspect can correlate to what life can look like for the medical staff and then the health system when COVID has died.
Yes.
Because people would not know. We are working from home and we have gotten disconnected from people. We are in our little own offices. There's no personal interaction. And we as human beings, we are innately interactive people. So when we get back into the real world, how much patience would we have? How many people are ready to adjust to being back into a literal office space or classroom space when almost a year and a half I had just me and me. So it's relearning steps again for many people.
I had an interview recently, a few days ago. The person was in pajamas because it's Zoom. And I kept looking over and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's PJ, this lady. And I think she was sitting on her bed because I could see the head of the bed. People don't even know what's right or wrong
and
anymore.
and that's where we with that so that's why the struggles are going to come for many people and when we are not ready to adapt to the new normal as we go back into the work environment and back out into society, anxiety is what's going to be take the toll,
Yeah.
of a lot of people.
Some
and
people won't shower for a
and
week
when
and
that
they'll be going to
anxiety
work.
sets in,
God.
it goes from anxiety into many other mental health challenges.
Yeah.
And if people are not talking about it, if you're not able to recognize where you are, because a lot of people now we are within our small bubble, and we need to go back into the bigger bubble.
Yeah.
But if I am not coping right now in
In
my
my
small
small bubble,
bubble,
how am I gonna
how
get
am
on?
I going to cope in the bigger bubble? People are going to have more and more triggers. So, what are you going to do with your triggers? What are the techniques that you can learn to implement that's going to help you if your anxiety is coming on? That's going to help you if you're feeling, some sort of fear, if you're feeling anxious, if a lot of different emotions are within you. What do you do
So
so
that
that you wouldn't explode?
Okay, and thanks for saying that because I want to dwell a little bit on triggers, and that's because one of the reasons why I went into mental health myself was because when I was in Europe, I had this environment where nobody wanted to go into mental health because it's hard to see. With COVID right now, there's a checklist. Do you have a cough? Do you have a cold? Do you have this? You can do a checklist, then you can go get a swab, then we can get a test result for you. Unfortunately, with mental health, there's nothing you can see physically. Someone could literally be dead right in front of you and still be smiling and putting on a facade, and you don't know it. And so, we could do this all day, you and I, and you have to come back definitely. So, but two things I want us to quick talk about because our time is probably fast spent is triggers. What should people be looking out for? And then we'll go back to that ant that you talked about earlier. So
Okay, so I think triggers, as we people should when you get back into the real world and the work world and everything like that, when you're looking at triggers, look at the behaviors of some people. So when you have people that you work in an office environment, for example, because I work in the office, so we no longer there in the career center, and people are isolating themselves. They don't want to come into maybe even your office just even to get something, or you keep seeing them organizing everything in a neat way that that's not that's not the person that you knew before.
Right.
So looking at a lot of things that individuals might be doing, you know, they are not looking at you when you're talking to them. And with COVID, we have the mask on. So we definitely reading communication cues, we have to look at the eyes, the non-verbal cues. But now we no longer have the mask on. But when you look at that person, can you recognize what's going on with that person? But one of the things about it is that as soon as you recognize that people, what is a trigger? One of the triggers might be that maybe somebody passed and they start sneezing.
Oh, okay.
And
so you're becoming allergic to people.
That alone itself can set that anxiety within someone. And when that person when that anxiety starts and they start panicking.
They start sweating.
Yeah, exactly.
And their hands are
What
sweating
do you do?
and they're having
And
heart
so even
palpitations.
within your colleagues and your setting and your environment that you notice that people are sweating profusely, they're always, the hands, and they're just anxious all the time. Those are a lot of triggers that you might see a lot of people are displaying as we go out. People, if you see someone coming too close to you, even though the person might be bypassing you, but mentally for you, you're coming too close. That's a trigger that's gonna set anxiety to the highest level for someone. Just because of all of the restrictions and all of the formalities we had to adapt to over the year, and months of COVID. So now it's for people to start thinking, how do I get positive? How do I start thinking positive? We gotta be optimistic. We gotta think about, the day to day. You go into the work environment. What can you do that's positive for yourself to keep you engaged as an employee returning to work? Okay. And that might look different. You might have to take time off of your break when you have a break, and just probably take a walk, breathe in, breathe out, do something, have the metaphor. What are affirmations? Positive affirmations. People need to have their own positive affirmations. What can you say within yourself that's going to help you? I can do this.
Don't wait for somebody else to say
Don't
to you.
wait for somebody else to say to you. You have the positive affirmation. If you know you're getting anxious about something, start talking to yourself to bring yourself down. So, and when you start doing that, the anxiety will then reduce. You still might have that anxiety, but it's going to reduce. So you can continue to cope throughout the day. So really, I believe in positive affirmations, telling yourself that, you know what, I'm here for the day, I'm going to enjoy, I've contributed. Like, recognize the good in you. And I say small, consistent actions. What small, consistent actions can people do that would help you enhance your well-being? So maybe that small, consistent action might be sending an email to someone.
Right. But you're consistent and you're intentional.
And you're intentional. It's not just pulling a quote from someone. You're just saying to the person something that's positive. That alone helps with your well-being, because you are passing on that positivity. And the thing about it is that we have to attract positivity. Very often we attract negative things.
Yes.
But true. Positivity also, it's like a magnet. So if you are in that environment where you're keeping positive, then people are gonna see that positivity light with you, and they are gonna want to be attracted to you, and you're gonna, despite other people not gonna be positive, you keep being positive. Like, I am just gonna keep being me and keep being positive, because at the end of the day, at the end of the day, as a mom, your whole emotional and mental well-being matters, because if you are not in that pace of a good well-being, how are you going to help your kids? How are you going to help them get through anxiety? And I remember I was talking to a couple of families of a cultural group the other day, and I said, never say to your kids, oh, you don't have anything to think about, or there's nothing for you to be anxious about. Because when they leave to go to school, we don't know
What they're
what's
going
going on. We don't
through.
know
That's true.
what they are going through. So our role is to check in with them and say, how are you doing? Like I said to my son the other day, do you have any do you have any sadness or any emotional things that you want to talk about that's bothering you all the time? And then he started telling me a story about a teacher and all that. So and then so I have to go in and say to him, well, not everybody's going to be okay with would want you to be part of their group. And so just these small conversations starting to have. And if you are not, as an adult, you're not in a good space, I think it's okay to say to someone, you know what, I'm not in a
That's
good place.
right.
It's okay to say to someone, I cannot do this today. I cannot. I don't have time to
To
do
do this.
what you want. Setting the boundaries.
Yeah, that's something I'm learning to do because I'm one of those people that want to try and help as much as I can, but you burn yourself out.
You burn yourself out,
Yeah.
and then then it doesn't do any good.
To
And
anyone.
I believe, and I say, especially for moms, my time, having that my time, having that 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, that's your time for you. You're not doing the laundry, you're not returning phone calls, you're not on the computer. It's your time to sit and really dwell into you and love you. No matter what, that my time might just be on your bed. It might be you decide to go into the shower, you put a bubble bath, and you're just there. Having that my time for restoration
Right.
helps. And during that my time, thinking positive thoughts, you know, and all of that can help us become more resilient
Wow.
as we go through the pandemic.
Wow. Natasha, thank you so much. Like we could do this all
I know, and the
day.
next time we'll talk about the automatic and negative thoughts, because
Yes.
because we are in a world right now, we are looking at TV, and all of the automatic negative thoughts are always there.
Yes.
It's the first thing. So now we have to be self-aware to think about how do we stop those thoughts. As soon as it's coming on, to say, oh, this is you have this thought. How do you turn it into a positive?
Okay. So we're going to have a part two of that for
A
sure. We're
part
going
two
to
of
do
the
a good part
ants
two.
of the
Well,
automatic
guys,
negative
thank you
thoughts.
so much for Natasha. Thanks for being here. I can.
Thank you for
One
having
thing
me.
you can do is record Natasha's voice. That's another way of getting positivity in you, and just play it whenever you're having your me time. But it's been an absolute pleasure having you here. I've learned so much about maintaining, positivity in negative circumstances because there's so many negativity around us. There's negative behaviors, but you've told us a lot of things that we can do for ourselves to be able to stay
Positive.
positive for ourselves, for our children, for our spouses, for everyone
Everybody
around
around
us. Because if you're negative, that's how we have all these shootings and all these other things. It's a ripple effect in the community. So it's important because it only starts with one, the power of one. If one person is able to maintain a positive attitude, they can spread that to other people. And viewers, I want to tell you this weekend, it's Mother's Weekend. If you're a woman, whether you're a mother or not, as long as you're a woman, I want you to take the time to have some me time this weekend. Happy Mother's Day to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember to join us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube page, join us on Praise Nation. And until I see you again, stay safe and continue to follow the regulations. Bye for now.